Hello and welcome to part 15 of a video series on how to use Blender 2.7. In this video, I want to talk about creating parent-child links between objects so that you can attach objects together but get the benefit of being able to move and animate the objects separately. Alright, so in this video I want to talk about parent-child linking, which is of course the way that you can allow two objects to stick together, or for multiple objects to stick to another object, in order that you can still animate this objects separately. To demonstrate what this looks like, I'm going to open up my snowman model, which I created in part 3 of this video series. In part 3 I created this very simple snowman using primitive meshes, including UV spheres, icospheres, cylinders, and cones. And if I want to animate this snowman, of course I would probably go to my front view with the 1 key, and I would need to make a timeline on my screen. We need to have a timeline in order to animate, so I'm going to grab this little cross-hatched area and drag it down and turn this window into a timeline window so I can, animate it over a sequence of time by turning on my red record button. To animate this snowman though, because it's made up of many objects, I would need to select them all at once to move the whole snowman at the same time. If I just grab this bottom UV sphere and grab it and move it, of course it moves by itself. To select the entire snowman, I would need to press B for box select and then drag a selection and move it and move later in time and do the same thing again. But of course, box selecting the whole thing every time is a very cumbersome process. There is a better way. To attach two objects together, or to make one object a child object or child of another object, in other words, kind of like the moon is attached to the Earth, it orbits around the Earth, but the Earth moves, it orbits around the Sun. The moon is a child of the Earth because it has to follow along with the Earth as it revolves around the Sun, but the moon itself does its own motion. It does its own orbiting around the Earth. So you can think of parent-childs like that. To make a parent-child is very easy in Blender. You select the child or children first. You hold Shift to select the next object. In this case, I'm going to select the parent last, which is very important. You always select the parent last. And then you press Control P on your keyboard, and then you select Set Parent to Object. Once you do that, when you move the parent object, the one that you selected last, the child will move along with it. So I'll do the same thing again with the buttons on the front of my middle body piece, and I'm going to make them children of the middle body sphere. So I select that one last, press Control P, set parent to object with Control P, and now when I move the bottom body piece, everything follows along with it. It's child, and then it's child's children's, if I said that right. So I can do the same thing with the two arms. I'll select those ones first, and their parent last. Control P, set parent to object. Now I can grab the bottom body piece and they'll move separately. I can move this one like that, or probably I can tap the Z key to only rotate on the Z axis. I can keep going from there. Now you can't do multiple levels of hierarchy in the same go. In other words, I can't select the head and the middle body piece and the bottom body piece and expect Blender to know that the head is a child of the middle body piece and the middle body piece is a child of the bottom body piece. It doesn't work like that. If I want to make these three children children of the arm, then I would select them and the arm last. I couldn't do this all in one go, but I will press Control P. So now I can wave the arm if I was animating it and it would work. The problem here though, and I'm going to touch upon this in a minute, is this origin point is rotating in the wrong spot. Before I get to that though, I want to mention that if you run into an error, let's say you select a mesh and then you select another mesh and you press Control P and you click on Set Parent to Object and you get a loop in parents error. That means that you are trying to connect or parent-child, a parent to a child. So you're trying to make a parent or an object that's already a parent a child of its own child. That doesn't work. If you ever run into this error, or if you ever want to disconnect a child from parent, you can select that child and press Alt-P on your keyboard. Again, Alt-P is the clear parent keyboard shortcut, and then you can just click on clear parent. And so now this arm is no longer a child. You'll notice there's no longer that dashed line between the child and the parent, but I do want this to be a child, so I'll select the parent too. Control P. There we go. To move that pivot point where the object rotates, that's actually called the origin, and that is where Blender keeps track of where the object is in terms of its coordinates. To move it, you have to put this 3D cursor, which you can move by left-clicking anywhere in your scene. You have to move it to where you want the arm's origin to be. So I'm going to put it right there, but of course I need to check from my top view as well to make sure it's not in the wrong location. So I'm going to click right about there and go back to my front view. And I actually have a wrong setting in Blender. Notice how when you click around, or when I'm clicking around, that 3D cursor is sort of sticking to the surface of the mesh that I'm clicking on. And that might be okay, but we run into problems with that option when they're trying to put it in the exact right spot. So I'm going to go up to the File menu, and I'm going to change one user preference. I believe a user did point this out in my video on setting up the preferences. I forgot this option, and it is fairly important. In my user preferences, which you can get to from the File menu, under the Interface tab, this cursor depth by default is checked, and if I leave my mouse over it, the tooltip will come up. It says use the depth under the mouse when placing the cursor. I don't want that, so I'm going to uncheck that and then save my user settings, which only saves, by the way, the settings in this user preferences. And then I can close it. And so now when I click, it doesn't stick to the surface of the object, which is what I want. So I'm going to click right there and then check it from the top. No, it needs to be right about there. And then that looks like the right spot. So to position the origin or to change its location, it's as simple as going over to your tool shelf, which is of course the T key if you have it hidden. And under the first tab, Tool, Set Origin, with this object selected, I'm going to set origin to 3D cursor. That's what that little crosshair thing is called. So now that orange dot jumped, and now it's in the right spot. So now if I animate the arm waving, it'll wave in the right spot. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.